Welcome everybody to our next webinar. Today we are going to be going over time and attendance, wages, and IRP5s. Obviously, we cannot show you the physical hardware side of the time and attendance as this is just a webinar, so we won't be able to show you that side. But in short, let me just give you a quick explanation of it. Essentially, what would happen is you would be using your clocking system of some sort. We generally work with ZK Teco or with Bio3G. They would provide you with a clocking machine that would be on your wall, generally at your entry point to your factory, or your panel beater or workshop, whatever system you're running. Your guys would walk in, they would present their fingerprint, their card, they'd type in a code or facial recognition depending on what model you've bought and what requirements you have. That would then check them in on the actual reader itself. The reader would then send that information to its software management system, and Dr. Smash will now talk to that software management system and get those clockings. So once those clockings have been sent to that software management system, Dr. Smash retrieves those, and then we can now work with it on Dr. Smash's side and give you information. So without further ado, let Christine take you through all of that and show you where it actually comes up in Dr. Smash.
Right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. If I go to my admin, time and attendance, time control, and I'm wanting to do weekly wages, right? It's now going through. It's looking at all the personnel. It is pulling the information from the reader. So it has a lot of work that it is actually doing. So that is why in this particular case, it will take a while for it to actually come through. Right, but what it will be doing is reading that data and then allocating how many hours everybody has actually worked in this week that we are actually looking at. If I now go through, it is pulled through data from the 19th to the 25th of March. There is all my staff that I'm actually working on. And you can see the hours that they have actually pulled through. There are some people that are not in a pay run, but they are clocked, but they are actually part of your monthly paid. They are not part of this weekly list that we are looking at. We have just pulled for the week who they are. There are some that it says in pay run, but are actually in yellow. These ones are the computer does not know what to do with one of the clockings. Every other clocking on here is perfect, is happy, it's red. This is when they clocked in, this is when they clocked out, and has put in the details for us. But these ones in yellow are an assumption has actually been made. So if we go in and we have a look, and we want to edit this particular one. There are his clockings from the 19th to the 25th, and it says that an assumed clock out was actually made. So let's edit, view the actual, find them again. We view the original clockings. This one here, and the second is the clocking out was not actually done on this particular case. Right. So if you're now wanting to go in and change them because you know that he was here, you would just go in and edit the selected shift. You would say, yes, he did work until 5 p.m. and you now click on your OK. And you will see that our normal hours will change from 0 and it will now put in the 9.25, which is a complete day. Right. So that is how you go in and you can sort yourself out. As you do that, you will see that he has now turned yellow. It's because somebody has physically had to go in and actually make changes to the data that came from the reader. So it's just your quick, simple, easy way of actually sorting out what is going on. Once you have gone through everybody and you're quite happy with it, you click on your export to wages. Are you sure? Right, and it's now exported. Right, so I now go into my payroll, and we're now going to start with our payroll side of things. If I go into payroll, weekly paid wage run, there is your use import data. I say do the wage run, and it will now pull through all those hours for that those particular ones that we have just done. Right, okay. So I have now got ahead of myself though, because I'm already in a wage run and I haven't even shown you anything about payroll. So we are going to cancel this wage run and we are going to start payroll from the beginning. So if we go, how do we start payroll? The first thing you need to do with your payroll is you have to go into your personnel, current company personnel, and actually add staff members onto the list. I am going to go into Petros. I double click on Petros. I'm editing instead of actually adding, but just so that I don't take up too much time by having to type. But what you need to do is the most important bits of information that Dr. Smash requires is at least your names need to actually be in the system. The remainder of this information is for IRP5 purposes. Your address and contact details, all of that is actually IRP5 information that is actually required. So the only thing I really, really need is my Petros and my Petros details. Right, so let's carry on going through. The rest of these you can just go through and put in his date of birth, the starting date, the end date. Well, obviously there is no end date, but when did he actually start working for you? What is his status and all the rest of it? What is his work cell phone number? This work cell phone number, throughout the system, you might have seen that if he is your quota, it comes up and it says the cell phone number for that person. And this is where it actually uses it. It's used by customer care. So it uses this number. So if you put in this number, it will be used throughout the program for Petros, so that people can contact Petros if you actually need to. Right, his email address is actually his personal email address. Address and contact details, his road address, what country it actually is, things like that is actually all put into the system. His home phone number, and then this one down here, your postal address. IRP5s for SARS, for South Africa, require the IRP5s to be done in a specific format. So if it is, the postal address is the same as the road address, that's fine. You selected that one. But you could also have, it is a structured postal address. If I click on that one, you'll see it comes up with PO Box, and you have to put in the number on the side, separate to the PO Box, and then you finish writing up the rest of the detailed. An unstructured postal address allows you to just write in the details as you have it, or you actually have a structured physical address, which is very similar to your unstructured postal address. It's just got the 3 lines and you write it up as it is. Right, your country codes, those are actually set in your defaults as to what your country code actually is, but we'll go through our defaults just now. Right, postal ID number, your ID number, and your date of birth should marry, and then your tax number must be 10 digits long with no spaces. At this point, and again for this year, for February 2020, SARS are accepting 10 zeros. But they are actually getting to the point where they will no longer accept 10 zeros because everybody has to have a tax number. Whether they are under tax or not, they actually need to have their tax numbers. So as the owner of the business, I would recommend that you start getting those tax numbers registered so that you can get it all sorted out. Your next of kin, if there was a problem with Petros, something happened to him at work, who would you actually be phoning and what number would you be using? This is also required for SARS purposes. They also want it. Right, notes on the employee. Any additional information that you actually want. If you get them a tax directive for some reason, you can put in the number for what they've actually got. If they have a driver's license, you can put in the driver's license with the expiry date actually on it. If they have a PDP, you can put in the expiry date of their PDP as well, and you can have a photo. Let's have a look. We go to our lookup. We find pictures. We go to Dr. Smash, buy now, pay later, and we have now put a photo in for Petros as to what he actually looks like. We have had one of our clients come back and ask us, and I think it's a very good idea, and we are looking into how to actually do it and to set it up, is that all documentation pertaining to this staff member will actually be put in so that you can do, if you wanted to, I'm assuming, I don't know what it will look like, but it will be fairly similar to our photos, where you go and you click on a photo and you can now read the document that is actually there, which will be the employment contracts, the personnel files, the any disciplinary inquiries or anything like that. That is hopefully coming, but I can't tell you when. So it is actually in the pipeline so that you have everything for Petros in one place. Right, going back up to our basic employee details, we have a tick box at the bottom here. And you can now see that it has filled in all of their details on the system so that you can actually print this out. It will have their photos actually on it as well. Any notes that you have made will be on there, and everything has been put onto the system so that you can print it out and put it into his file, because at the moment that's where you're keeping everything manually. Right, okay. Before I carry on with this side of things, I'm actually now showing you how to actually add a personnel actually onto the list. Before I carry on with the wage side of things, I want to actually go to the defaults and actually talk to you about the default of the payroll so that when we start going through the next section, it makes more sense to you. So I'm just going to close this down. Right, okay, so when we start doing the payroll, we have a couple of things that need to actually be put into the system. The additional bonus pays. If you pay out your additional bonus pay, because with MIBCO, you got your ALP, which is your additional leave pay, additional bonus pay, same thing. If you pay it out yourself, and it's now come up to that time where they actually now need to pay it out, the computer wants to know how many days are you actually, working days, are you actually going to be paying out. So that is when you put it in. Right. So this is all about your additional leave pay as to when you are actually going to be doing. When do you do it? Do you do it at bonus time or at leave time? So you tick to say if it's at leave time, it will come up automatically at leave time. We also have bonus information, so that you can actually see what is actually going on. And we want the bonus months to actually start coming up on our wage run. So what that means is we have a choice in Dr. Smash. You can either pay your bonuses at leave time, which means that generally in December, everybody gets their bonus and their leave all at the same time. Or you can actually do it that on the anniversary of working for you, you can actually have, they will be paid out their bonuses. And that is what this one is. The bonus month on wage run. That one allows you to actually now says that you are going to be paying your bonuses at the anniversary rather than trying to give everybody a bonus at the end of the year. Right. Is it a pro rata if they've worked less than a year? You tick that if you need to, if you want to, whatever. So that's totally up to you as to how you do it. When is your payday? You work from Friday morning to Thursday evening. You work from Thursday to Wednesday. When is the actual payday? When do you pay out your figures? Do you pay it out on a Friday? So you just change it to a Friday. When does your tax year start? Most people start on the 1st of March. And if you are paying your monthly staff, what day do you actually pay your monthly staff on? Is it the 25th or on the 30th? Right, how do you pay them? Do you pay them in cash or pay them by the bank? If you pay them in cash, what notes do you actually use? Do you like to use a 200 Rand note? If you do, you can tick that. Your overtime rates, you will see that Dr. Smash has 3 overtime rates. There's overtime 1, 2, and 3. 1 is normally Monday to Friday. What rate do you actually have? Overtime 2 is a Saturday. And then overtime 3 is a Sunday. So it's either 1 or 1.5 for Monday to Friday. That is actually up to you as to what you're wanting to do. Saturday is normally 1.5, and then Sunday and any public holidays is normally your 2, your double time. Right. We then have this button here, show delete buttons on deductions. It is unticked because we do not like to show the delete button because it can cause major problems with your data if people don't understand the way that deductions work properly. So we do not tick that. Only if you really need it and you have the authority to come into default can we then come in and actually delete it, and we know how to actually delete it properly. Right, okay, so your maximum limit for UIF, obviously, it's self-explanatory. You just type in the amount, what the max actually is. Then, when you're calculating all of your other deductions, do you actually only do it on the default normal working hours? That would be like your pensions. If you're working out your pension, are you actually only working out pension on the working hours, his 45 working hours, or are you actually going to work out his pension on all of his different types of incomes that he could actually have? In most cases, pensions are actually only on the normal working hours, but when they come back to claim, they only can claim against their normal working hours anyway. Right, we also have 2 user-defined deductions, and it's actually the exact same procedure. Of those 2 that you have now added in of your own, how do you want them to be worked out? Is it also on the normal working hours or not? And then the last one is for your monthly paid. And you can either do it that in some months they have a 4-week month, and some months they have a 5-week month, or you can average it out so that every month they are paid 4.33333 weeks, and so that they get the same salary every month. That is up to you as to whether you tick that or not. Right, payroll things. When we come to print out our payroll, we have our what printouts do you actually want to have come up. Your sick pay is number of sick days required to pay, and what is the period in years in which the sick leave can actually be taken. So it is 30 days within 3 years. Once you've reached your 30 days, Dr. Smash does work it out from exactly, it looks at the last 3 years and actually adds up all the sick leave for that particular week. So it will always tell you exactly what sick pay has actually been taken in the last 3 weeks. If they had been in hospital 3 years before, and so suddenly one pay slip, it says that they have got no sick leave due to them, and then suddenly the next week they go in and it says that they have now got 5 days due to them. It's because it's now said that they had their those 5 days that they spent in hospital 3 years ago has now fallen out of the 3-year period, so they now get their 5 days back. So Dr. Smash does work out the sick pay correctly. Right. Okay. Deductions, if they work less than 27 hours, MIBCO says that we don't actually have to take pension and provident and things like that off. Your monthly staff, what is their normal working hours? 195 or 172. You decide what your working hours are for your monthly staff. Your standard notice pay, as to whether you have 10 or 5 days, that is up to you as to what your contract actually stipulates with it. And then your standard leave pays, days that are required to pay. Everything is worked out in working days. It does not work it out as in a week. It actually only works everything out on working days. Right. You do have the facility, if you want, of rounding off their wages because you don't want to worry about cents. You can round it off to 5 cents, 1 rand, 5 rand, or to the closest 10 rand. So that is up to you. I like to keep mine at no rounding, but all you need to do is just tick and it will round it off for you. Right, your pension and provident. If you want specific wording for your pension or provident to actually come up, if you want the word like MIBCO, pension or whatever, this is where you can actually go in and just change it on here so that that's where it will now come up and give you another name on your payslip if you wanted it. Right, okay. You only use coinage from personnel. We had the question asked back here whether we do pay by bank or pay in cash. Sometimes you do both. You actually you pay half of your staff EFT, but some of them don't have a bank details as yet, and you want to pay them in cash. And that is where only use coinage from personnel. If you tick this, it then allows you to actually select per person as to whether they are an EFT or a cash person that you're actually sorting out. So I'm just going to tick that so we can actually show it. This one here is obviously for your importing of your time and attendance information. So Dr. Smash will actually get this set up for you so that we can get your Dr. Smash reading your time and attendance readers. Right, then on your reports, how do you want your audit to come out? Is it by clock card number, by surname, or by first name? You choose. I personally like to keep them in clock card number order, but that's up to you as to which order you want them to actually come out in. Right, tax defaults. Tax defaults are actually a bit of a, okay, I will try and explain this. Right, auto tax. Yes, everybody needs to be auto taxed. Auto taxed is Dr. Smash will look at your wages and tell you what it says that we should be paying. So that's what the auto tax is all about. Dr. Smash will come up and tell you the figures. If you untick it, there is a place actually in the personnel where we can set what tax we actually want to take off of them. You set your own, it stays that, and it will always be that tax table that is actually taken off of their salary every month. So that is totally up to you as to whether you want the tax, Dr. Smash to work out the tax, or whether you are actually going to just do a set figure every month. Right, but if Dr. Smash is going to be doing the auto tax, there's two ways of working out your tax tables. This bottom one is we're working out the tax from the wage run. So it looks at this particular wage run, and it says in this wage run you earned 5,000 Rand. Okay, let's make it more because 5,000 is under the bracket. If you 8,000, it now will then work out what your tax table should be, your tax repayment should be on that 8,000 Rand. If that 8,000 Rand was actually made up of a basic salary and you gave him leave because he now went and he's going into his leave for the following week or whatever it actually is, he doesn't normally earn 8,000 Rand. He actually normally earns less than 6. So he doesn't normally have tax. Dr. Smash will take the tax. And because we are looking at this month, he earned enough to actually be paying tax. This one on the second one here, this is actually looking at the entire year. And it is now saying that it will look at the entire year and it actually averages out what his salary slip actually is. And will now say he normally earns less than 6. This particular week he is actually earning more than 6. So he's gone into the tax bracket, but it won't work it out on the full 8. It will now average out all the tax brackets and probably be giving him tax on maybe 6,200 Rand. So instead he's actually now paying 2 cents tax instead of actually paying 126 Rand tax. So those are the differences between the two. So generally what I ask people to do is at the beginning of the year, from March, is you use your wage run remuneration. And if he earned 8,000, he gets taxed on his 8,000. But as we start getting closer to the end of the year, we then move over to the year to date. So that the computer can now say, hang on a moment, he's actually falling underneath the tax bracket and we can start giving him taxes back. When we give him his taxes back, generally when we have to pay out his bonuses, so that he is not having to pay so much towards his bonus when he suddenly gets a bonus and he's now being taxed quite heavily, because by doing it this way, the second way, where you're doing the wage run remuneration, you are maybe taking slightly more than what you should be, because as I said, it's working it out on the 8,000 instead of working it out on the just less than 6. So he's paying slightly more, but when he gets his bonus, he can now have a proper bonus because you can repay him for all the tax that he has actually overpaid. Hopefully that makes sense. The rest of these are figures that are for if anybody is over 65. If they are over 65, they, right, no, not just over 65. If they are over the tax brackets, they earn more than what the last tax table actually says. This is where it will get its calculations, and these figures are actually typed in once a year. Dr. Smash, normally when we do your tax tables, we actually correct these figures so that if anybody actually does work over that tax bracket, it uses these figures to do the formula. Dr. Smash does have the formula in it for working it all out. Right, and generally if they are over 65, there is a tick box actually in the personnel to say that they are over 65. Right, IRP5, it just wants to know your pay-as-you-earn number, your SDL number, your UIF, your trade classification. Normally panel beaters and spray painters are your 330. We ended up writing that in because every year people would phone me and ask me, so I have now written it up in Dr. Smash so that it becomes standard. Right, your SIC reference code, that's normally the same. And then your SDL, what is your SDL percentage? If you are exempt, you would actually tick to say you are exempt. Right, we also get, if we are on medical aid, we get a rebate on your medical aid. You get a tax credit. And what are your tax credits? For the first 2 people, whether they are adults, children, or whatever, it's for yourself and your next dependent. That is what your figure will actually be. And then for every other dependent thereafter, you will be getting that figure as your tax credits. Now, once you have typed that in for the year, we update our tax credits so that it now will go through and have a look to see how many dependents you have and then start correcting your tax credits from there. Right, SARS also asked for additional information. So we've now got to start typing in who actually does the IRP5s. So let's write in position is a bookkeeper. My fax number is, I have no idea, but okay, we'll just type in a number and my cell phone number. Right, do I get diplomatic rights at all? In our company, nobody has diplomatic rights, so we leave that unticked. So that is actually your defaults for doing your IRP5s, your payroll, and all the rest of it. So once those are actually set, you should never need to go back to your payroll again, to your defaults again, except as you are approaching the end of the year, you're just now wanting to change from your wage run to your yearly figures. Right, so now let's go back to our personnel. We go back to our Petros. This first screen is just, you are literally just writing in and answering the questions. Is he disabled? Does he have a driver's license? And all of those type of things. Your address, those details, putting those in. Notes I've gone through. All right, employee training. Employee training is a completely different training module, because there is employee training is actually quite complicated, but it's also for your auditing at the end of the year, where you get audited by your SAMBRAs and your manufacturers and that type of thing. They're wanting to know what courses your staff have actually gone on. That is where your employee training actually all come in. I'm just going to show you a quick scenario. If I go into my training schedule, I have a look at my calendar for Petros. I can see, let's see, view last. Okay, right, sorry, wasn't Petros. All right, sorry, I'd actually set up one, now I can't remember who he was. Right, but it will show you all the courses that he has actually done, what courses are actually scheduled for the next year, and all the rest of it, so you can go in and actually have a look. But that's a completely different training schedule, because it's quite complicated to go through and do. We are concentrating on payroll today. Basic wage rate. Right. Now, the first thing is he actually in a wage run? It seems to be such a stupid question to actually ask, but you can be entering people onto your personnel. You could have an outside bookkeeper that every now and then comes into your company. They need to be able to log on to Dr. Smash, to be able to have access to the Dr. Smash so they can get their information, but you don't want to pay them. So that is what that employee is in the wage run is actually all about. So you, because this personnel list is also used for your users as to who has rights to this program. Right, how often do you pay them? You either pay them weekly, monthly, or fortnightly. Right, what is their official title? These are the titles that are given to us by Midco, but we can go in and edit, and you can actually add on other ones as well if you need to, just by highlighting and say editing the record and typing up whatever you want them to be. Are they over 65 years of age? And then here is that one. Is the employee paid in cash, not by electronic funds, by EFT? So if I tick that, I am now saying Petros is one of those that I pay cash for. So when you work out my coinage, include Petros's fees so that I can actually know exactly what coins and things to get for him. Right, your standard pay hours to apply is, it has brought through automatically what was written up in our defaults. But for some reason, this particular employee does not work the same hours as everybody else. You can change it for this employee and this employee only. Our standard leave pay, if after 8 years, they're now entitled to their 20 days, you can actually now go in and type up your 20 days in here because they're now entitled to their 20 days. Do they qualify for tax incentive? If I click on that one, it does, at this point, it does nothing in Dr. Smash. It does not affect their taxes. It does not do anything. The only thing it will do is for IRP5 purposes, it now comes up and says that they qualify for tax incentive. So it's only for IRP5 purposes that we have the tax incentive actually put in. Right, rates and labels. How much does this person earn? If we did our weekly rate and we upped his salary to 1.5, and I now press my enter key, both his monthly and his hourly pay rate will change. If I wanted to say that no, I actually only want to give him 30 Rand an hour, everything now changes to suit it out. So whichever one you change, the other two will change automatically. Right, our medical aid. What medical aid scheme is he actually on? Right, he's on BestMed. He's on PACE 1. How many dependents? We've actually put in here adults and your children. He's got 3 children. But our tax credits don't worry about whether they are adults or children. It just wants to know the first 2 get this, everybody else will get that. The only reason we do the adults and the children is for the MIBCO medical aids, because they need to actually know how much, what the dependence differentiations actually are. Right, the industrial numbers, unions, the bank accounts, the codes, who is actually the account holder's name, is what type of account it is, whether it's his own account or not, whether it's a joint one or he actually puts his money into a third party account. You need to put all of those details actually in for IRP5 purposes. The taxman wants to know where does this money actually go. Wage deductions. These are all the deductions that are going to be coming off of their payslip. These are the standard ones for all panel beating businesses. So if we go to our levies, you'll see that our code says code number 2 and is going to be taken off R3.02. So I'll go to my lookup. It only shows me a list of codes for levies. If I wanted to make a new deduction, you just go into add a new deduction. It's your levies, it's a set amount of money, and it's now, they have a separate one where it's actually only going to be R1.50, and the employer actually only pays R1.50 as well. So we click on our OK. It will now actually come up, and those are the 2 different MIBCO levies that we now can actually have. If MIBCO have increased their R3.02 to R3.50, we highlight MIBCO and we edit it and we change our money to R3.50. Right, now the reason I'm actually saying that is everybody who has a code 2 will now automatically have changed from R3.02 to R3.50. So that is why I'm saying that if you need to suddenly put in a different levy to what is normal, that is why you go to your add button. But your edit is if you change code 2, all your staff who have code 2 will now change. That is why we have actually taken off that delete button on your deduction, because there's been a lot of clients that come in and then delete code 2 because Petros no longer pays levies. I don't want him to actually pay a levy anymore. So they go in and they delete code number 2. But Petros is not the only one that is actually paying this levy. You have got 10 other staff members that were paying this levy, and now all of a sudden you've deducted that levy off of their. They can no longer find that code number 2, so they don't know how much money to actually take off. And you keep getting error messages coming up on your payslip. So that is why we have taken away the edit button and the delete button of your deductions. So if Petros no longer pays levies, you set it to no deduction. It now takes off code number 2. If I want to go back, I can just go back and I can set the deduction back to code number 2 again. So that is what your set to no deduction is all about. It is like deleting the code from Petros, but you are not affecting your other staff members' figures. Right, training fund, you literally just go down this list and you choose which one it is that the staff member is actually going to be paying. So I'm going to go to our pension fund, right? I'm going to edit my pension fund because at this particular point, it's an exact percentage, but the employer actually pays 8.5. Right. So I've now changed it for everybody that he now pays 8.5. I say select, and it now comes up that he now has a pension fund and is going to be taking 7% off of it. Right. His unemployment fund, it comes up as 1%, and the computer knows that the minute it hits 148, because in our default we said so, it will now only take that 148. Here are your two other deductions that you would like, that your user defined. If you have a tea garden or a tea club, they're paying for uniforms. If you want, you can even put in garnishings. You can go in and you can look up. There's a garnishing. Somebody's doing 500 Rand a month. So, shame, poor Petrus is going to have no money by the time I'm finished. Select his deduction. I'm taking off 500 Rand for a garnishing order. Right. And because he has not selected medical aid up here, he does not get a tax rebate. Right. If we did go in and select that he had medical aid, he would actually get your tax rebate coming up. Right. I can, at this point, go in and start looking at my cost to actually employ him. I click on here, it now uses all the figures that I have actually put into the system and will now make me up what his pay slip will actually look like so that I can decide what I'm wanting to actually do. Right, if I think that he has got the information that he needs, we can go through and set it all up. Right, okay, wage, income and other. So you can keep going back to looking at that, going back to here, changing, sorting them out, doing your income, and keep going back to that test to employ so that it shows you what their pay slip is actually going to be. Right, wage income. We have done their 45 hours. That was set at the very top here when we had our wage rates. We set that for what his 45 hours actually is. Now we are going to be doing other incomes. It could be a standby allowance. It could be a cell phone allowance. It could be a house allowance. It could be any other reason you are actually giving him money. This is where the other income will come in. We go to our lookup. We've got 3 different types of income that it could actually be. So you click on the first one and okay, I'm just going to say it. So, well, I'm going to add a new one. Right. So we're going to say that it is a cell phone allowance. Right. So on it is just cell phone. Right. Is it in a specific amount of money that he gets every month? Is it a percentage? Do you want it to be rounded up? Or do you want the figure to be input at wage runtime? If it's something like commission that changes every week, you can then do to be input at wage runtime, and at wage runtime, you type in the figure that you now want to pay him for that particular week. Dr. Smash will not tell you what figures to actually use. You must type in your own. If you do a set amount of money, you will see that it comes up here and the employer is going to be paying, and you write in the figure that it actually is. If it's an exact percentage, you would then, you do that one and it now comes up with your calculations. You do not put it in under employee because the employee is not paying the income. The employer is paying the income. Right, so let's go. I'm going to do it as input at wage runtime so that I can show you what it is. this income that he has now got, is it taxable? Right, tick if it is not taxable. So if I tick this, it means that our tax tables are going to ignore it and not add it in as part of his income onto the system. Is it to be used in your deductions? So our pension looks at 7%. Is it going to look at this income as part of the income, so it does the 7% on both the 45 hours and on this income, or not? And then if it is commission is not you. You do not. Sorry, I'm getting my wording wrong. You do not have UIF on commission. So you cannot claim back UIF on commission, and so therefore you would tick this one to say it is a commission, and UIF will not calculate it, will not be part of the calculations. Right, okay, save the record, and I can now select my income. Right, I have two other ones, exactly the same procedure. You can actually add them in if you want. Then you also have a fixed bonus. You can go in and actually set up a fixed bonus that he will always get a bonus of 200 Rand. That's up to you. You just literally, like we did just now, you go in and you set your bonuses that you actually want. Right. I'm not going to give him a bonus. Remember we said that you can automatically, Dr. Smash automatically will work out the tax for you. If it was untipped, where would it get its figure from? Here is your fixed rate to actually pay. If I wrote in a figure here of 200 Rand, I'm overriding the auto calculate. You will see that when I first go in, it will automatically tell me I'm only going to be paying 200 Rand actually on the staff member, and that's the tax that it will actually take off. So you can set your own tax rates if you want. Right. We also have loans on Dr. Smash. Halfway through the week or halfway through the month or whatever, they come and ask you, please, can they have some money because they need to buy something or whatever their reasoning actually is. So we want to give them a loan. I click on here. I go to add a new record. Right, how much is it for? I'm going to, well, he's asked for 1,200 Rand. We have physically made an invoice, a check, or did an EFT for 1,200 Rand to him, or we gave him cash, whatever way it actually is. When did he take the money, and how much is he going to be paying back every month? 500 Rand. Right, interest will be applied to the loan. If I now go to my interest details, I can apply interest. I don't have to. It's up to you as the boss as to what you're wanting to do. But you can apply interest in two different ways. You can either have a set amount, as in you say, okay, 1,200, so therefore 120 Rand will actually be interest. So it will now make it that he owes you 1,400, whatever it actually is. Because it will now add the interest and it will add the 1, 2 together. Or you can actually do that a percentage will actually be applied, 3%, and it is calculated weekly. You can choose whether you want it weekly, yearly, or monthly. So you decide what you're actually wanting to do. Right, so one of these needs to actually be 0, otherwise it won't know which one to actually use. Right, basic loan details. I'm actually not going to apply interest anywhere, but I will show you where the interest will come up. Remember yesterday when we did our training session, we did staff purchases. This is how you would actually do your staff purchases. They are wanting something. I can now go and say this is an in-house purchase. Unfortunately, it does take a while for the screen to come up. But so I go to make my purchase order. I write in that it is my left front fender and how much it actually is. It's for the 1,200 Rand. And if I click on save this part, it allows me to actually order this left front fender. I can place the order with any one of my suppliers, and I can receive the order. When I receive the order, the computer, because it now knows that this is a staff purchase, it will now check against your original loan figure, and will check to see whether the price that you actually ended up having to pay for the left front fender is the same price as what the loan was actually taken for. If there is a price difference, it will come up and ask you if you want to change the loan figure. So that is where your staff purchases actually all come about. It is literally because your staff member is taking a loan because he's wanting to buy the fender. You are giving him a loan so that he can buy it, but you are buying it through your own books. So everything goes through onto your creditors and all the rest of it. But you're getting the money straight back from your staff member because it is coming off of his salary every month. I'm not clicking on OK, save the part because that takes miles too long. Right, okay. I don't want to add another part, no. And so I can, no, I'm not going to do it in the house, right. I can now save my loan. Right, so there is my 1,200 Rand loan that is actually on. You will see that in 2019, he did have a loan, but he has actually paid it all back at this point. Right, so that is how you do your loans. The rest of these are actually just histories. It's listings. When did he last take leave? I can go to my leave history and actually have a look and see when did he actually last take leave. When did he, and you can see that the computer is going through and working out how many days leave he's actually got. His compassionate history, his sick history, his rise history, all of that. You're just literally clicking on it and the history of that will actually come up. These ones down at the bottom here, you've also got your bonus history. If you're wanting to look at Petros's details and only his details for the year to date, that's what that YTD stands for, his year to date, I can go in, I can click on here, and it will show me so far this year, these are all the pay slips that I've actually done for him. Right, if I'm wanting to look at last year, I just change my years and I can go back and look at all my last year's details and things like that. So if you are wanting to go back and reprint any pay slips or anything like that, this can all be done on the SQL payroll, because we are now retaining previous year's data. Right, we can print out his year to date and we can do a tax check. And check the employee's tax. I will be showing you that at a later stage. Right, time and attendance and your grace times and things like that. That is all to do with that reader as to whether this particular staff member is not active on the clocking stations. He doesn't clock in and out, or he doesn't have to clock in and out. But if he was unticked, you can then say whether he's an employee, what roster to actually use for him, so it knows what times that he should have actually have logged in on and what time is your finish time and things like that. Right, attendance grace times. If he arrives to work 5 minutes late, are you going to deduct 5 minutes from his time, Or do you give him up until 15 minutes for him not to, in this case, they're saying 5-5. He's only allowed 5 minutes. Anything over 5 minutes, that time will get deducted from his payslip. If he comes in at 1 minute past 7 in the morning, it will still recognize it as 7 o'clock, right up until it gets to 7:05. After 7:05, it then starts deducting money. Grace out is if he pitches up and starts clocking out at 10 minutes to 5, those 10 minutes will get deducted. But he is allowed to actually start clocking out 5 minutes to 5. From 5 minutes to 5, right up until 5 o'clock, and it will recognize it as 5 o'clock. So that's totally up to you as to how you want your grace periods to be set up. But all of this setup is actually done by the Dr. Smash staff. They help you to get it all up and working. And once it is actually up and working, we saw right from the beginning how easy it is to actually import the data into Dr. Smash. Right, okay, so we have gone through our personnel. So we've added them all on, and we are now ready to actually do a wage run itself. Admin, payroll, weekly wage. Right, when you're going in, I'm not going to do import. When you go in, Dr. Smash, it is very important to actually get this screen correct. Right, your industrial council week number is your first payday in March, because that is when you said your accounting year starts. Your first payday in March is week number 1. Your last payday in February is week number 52, sometimes 53. But it shouldn't be any more than that. So every Friday from March, we start counting what week number are we on now. So that is where the industrial week number actually comes in. Dr. Smash suggests that we should be on week 7. But in this particular data, they are saying that they have already done week 7, where they're now just waiting for week 8 to actually go and do carry on. Right, then month number is what month are we in? March is obviously your first month. Your second month is April. So you see how it tells you as you change, it will tell you what month you are actually going into. Dr. Smash does not change your months automatically for you. The reasons for this is your industrial council. Your industrial council, just because today is actually the 2nd of April, the 2nd of April could actually still be falling into March because of the way that the weeks actually run. The 2nd of April is a Friday, but or a Thursday or whatever it actually is. So it is part of the week before. And if Dr. Smash had to now see that you were doing April and change it to April, but it should have actually been March, it can cause problems. So it's up to you to change your own month so that you can keep it according to the Industrial Council calendar. Because their calendar is not a normal everyday calendar. Your year number, self-explanatory. This is the 9th year that we're actually doing wages, so that one should never need to change every day. Right, your pay slip, it looks at the next Friday actually on our list, and that's why it's put in that wage slip date. Okay, so I do my wage run. It now goes through and it automatically will pay everybody their full time. Okay, this is a bad example because everybody was actually put on leave, so that's why their normal hours are all short. Right, okay, sorry about that. Yeah, right, so let's go and have a look at, we'll have a look at Petros anyway. It's only given him 18 hours because he was actually put on leave. He's been sent on leave, and his leave will end on the 21st of April. So that is why it's now coming up and saying that he, this is what's going on with him. So as you send somebody on leave, it was sorted out. But you see how my tax came up at 200 Rand automatically. My UIF has come through, my levy at 3.50 Rand. There is my loan. And if I had interest, the interest would have actually come through here. The repayment, if for some reason he did not want to pay 500 Rand this month and he only paid 250, write him what he did pay. If he didn't pay any money, you do your zero, and it now says that he still owes me that amount of money, and it will carry on until it has actually been paid off, until that money has come through at zero. Right, so you can see how everything is actually on here properly. But I want to go to a staff member that's not in the negatives. Right. Okay, so his hours here that he's worked 45 hours. We're quite happy with that. His tax has actually come through, his UIF. He has an other, which would be like his garnishing or something to that effect, has actually all come through. If he has actually worked overtime, and it's Monday to Friday, he's worked 2 hours overtime. Monday to Friday goes in, overtime 1, so we type in 2, and it works out 1.5 of what his hourly rate actually is. If he worked on a Saturday, you write in whatever he worked on a Saturday, and then if I worked on a Sunday, you will see that it actually now works out the double time for us. Okay, let's change that 1 to 5 so we can, no, that was also time and a half. Eh? Yeah, no, okay, so that's time. I was trying to see if one of them would come up as double. But anyway, you can now see that it works out those figures for you. Right. If you're wanting to send them on leave, you're just clicking on send them on leave. Right. How many leave days are they actually taking? So they are taking 5 days leave. The deduction weeks is, if you have a look on the, I'm just going to move the screen here. That is what a deduction week is for 1 week. When he goes on leave, you need to remember that you are paying him for this 45 weeks in the background here, 45 hours in the background here, which is 1 week. And you are now sending him on leave for 1 week. So therefore, he should be paying 2 weeks worth of deductions. So we change that to 2, and all of this will now double the deductions that we had before. Right, I'm not going to be paying his ALP. I'm leaving that for MIBCO to actually do. So I just zero it, and I now click on OK, save the record. So Dr. Smash gives you what it says you should be paying. If you are not happy with those figures, you can actually go in and change those figures to what you actually want them to be. If you want this to be 1990, you can go in and change it. Right. Sick hours. If they did not work 45 hours, they only work 36. And so 9 hours is actually sick pay. it will now work out your sick pay for you. Right, yeah, so everything is actually on the system here. If you are not happy with the UIF, go change it to 63 Rand or whatever it actually is. When you change your UIF, it comes up and it says, but hang on, the employer also has a portion. So do you want to change the employer's portion as well? So we normally just say yes. If you say no, it will leave the employer's UIF as it is. But if you say yes, it will change the employer's portion. No means no, you'll leave the employer's to the way it was. Right. And that is your payslips.
Before you move off, Sean's just got a question here. What if an employee cashes his leave and is still working, say 1 week cashed?
Right, okay. So, okay, save the record. That this Petros, he should actually have only worked 18 hours this week, but he has actually worked the full 45 hours because he took it. So you just literally change your 45 hours back to 45 hours and he can now get his money. So what will happen is actually on his IRP5, he would have got his leave and he's now getting this extra money that he's actually done. So SARS now says that he will probably owe slightly more in tax because he has actually earned extra money. That is the correct way of actually doing it. I have heard of some shops that actually will pay them in cash so that they don't go through their pay slips, but the correct way of actually doing it on their pay slips is if they have worked 45 hours, instead of only the 18, they change it up here and let the computer work it out normally. So Dr. Smash does not stop you, even though the leave only ends and he's actually come back to work early. You can actually add those hours on to what hours he has actually worked. Sean, did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you so much.
Right. Anybody else got any other questions? I think we're doing Bongani. Compassionate leave. If you're wanting to send them on compassionate leave, it's literally just click how many days compassionate leave are they having. So you say 2, use the dates, and it will now put compassionate leave in at the bottom here for you. Right. If you are discharging your employee, now with discharging is a lot of people, they tend to forget to actually discharge their staff on their pay slips. And we need to go into discharge the employee. What notice pay are they getting? Remember, we had said that it was for 5 days, so we're giving them 5 days notice pay. Because we've already sent them on leave, they haven't got any leave and things like that due. But if we wanted to, we can actually write in a figure of whatever we wanted our leave to actually do. And we write in the figures that we want. We click on our OK. My slip is not going to be very happy. It's now saying that they have been discharged on the 17th of the 4th. Right. What will now happen? Oh, hang on. He should have been paying back his loan. So let's take off his full loan so he doesn't actually owe us any money. So you will go through. Generally, what you would also need to do, and you're either doing this for discharging or at any stage, you can go through and you can do a tax check on the employee. Remember, I was telling you that there's 2 ways of doing your taxes. This one here, you've got a drop box next to it. If you click on that drop box, this is how it's working its figures out. It's working it out on the gross pay, minus any medical aids and retirement and things like that. and then it will do your credits, tax credits, as well as medical aid tax rebates if you have any. But you click on your standard tax check, and it now says that for this particular week, he should actually have been earning $260.96. Right. So that should have been $260.96. For this particular staff member, that is what has been put in. Right. But if I go to this tax check employee, so that one is looking at the wage run and only this wage run. This one here is now looking at the entire year. It is now saying that up until this point in time, he has actually only earned 3,000 Rand plus today's tax, which gives him a total of 6,000. We are on week 8 already. So therefore, he is averaging 764 Rand a week. It then multiplies that by 52 weeks and says that it should be 39,000. It looks at the tax on 39,000 and says that the tax is actually 0. It then divides your tax by your 52 weeks. And then times it by the 8 weeks and say, at this point, that is what he should have been paying. This is what he has actually paid. So therefore, that is what he actually owes. Let's see if I can find somebody that has figures and not zeros. Right, yes. Right, so at this point, so far this year, he's earned 7 plus today's gives him 12. Divided by 8 means that he earns about 1.5 a week. Multiplies it by 52. So now looks up the tax on that 79, which is 714 Rand. Divides the 714 by 52, and then multiplies it by 8, and says that at this point, he should have been paying 109 Rand and 85 cents, but he has actually paid 289 Rand, so therefore we should be giving him back 179 Rand 26. So he has actually been overpaying his tax as he's been going along on the system. Right, so that is what your tax check is actually all about. This one on the left-hand side is looks at the entire year. This one will actually look at the normal pay for this week and this week only. Right, and if, like in this particular case, he's earned only 36 hours. If I go in to view my absent hours, my 36 or my 9 hours will not appear on my absent hours as yet. It only appears on the listings, on any of these listings, when I hit the commit the wages. So it only updates these lists when I click on commit. Right. All right, if we're looking at this screen in front of us at the moment, we have some different colored line items. The light pink means that Anthony is due. It is coming up for his annual bonus. So we should actually be paying him his annual bonus. But Patrick has actually gone past his annual time, and we should have paid him his bonus already. So that is what the red means, is that we have not paid him his bonus and he's due it, but these two here are actually due for they should be getting within this week or next week, they should actually be paid their bonus. Because remember, their start date could fall in the middle of a week, so it lets you know the week before, and they will let you know the week after that they were due their annual bonus. And then if even later than that and you still haven't paid them their bonus, it then comes up in red. Right. So when it first comes up, it just gives you a week and you go, oh yeah, I need to get extra money in for next week because I now need to pay Anthony his bonus. So that is what the light ones actually are. When you go in to that particular staff member and you're doing his bonus, you can actually calculate the AA bonus, right? He's actually worked less than 18 hours, 27 hours. So we're going to say no, we're not going to set our deductions to 0. Right. It's now put in what his bonus should actually have been. So all we're doing is clicking on annual bonus, and now next week it will say that Anthony has been paid, and he will actually be white screen because he's now got to wait another whole year again. Remember, we did it that Petros was paid cash. So if I go into print my coinage and actually add up all the rands and cents and things that I actually need to actually make up that 916 rand and 75 cents, it will give you the breakdown of what your coinage report should be as to what, so you can send that to your bank and actually have them get the money ready for you before you get there, and it will break it down exactly so that you can count out the money and put it into everybody's different envelopes. That's what the coinage report does. You can print out your pay slips and all the rest of it, right? But once you are 100% happy with everything, you commit your wage run. Are you sure? And we say yes. Right, then it now comes up with that list of what is it that you wanted to have print out. And you can now tick. You can see that even though you have it under your default, you can still decide this week if you do want all of those things or not, and tick and untick as you want. Right. So what are all these different reports? Your payroll printout. That was literally a copy of everybody's payslip. Payroll is there are 3 payslips on 1 page. So that those are normally kept for your files so that you're not wasting paper. Payslips are 2 payslips. It will be all of your staff, but there are 2 payslips on a page so that you can fold your page in half and cut them, tear them, and you give each staff member a half an A4 page. Right, so that's 2 payslips on a page. That one is 3 payslips on a page. Your week check reconciliation. That one, I'm actually going to close that. And go to my wage reports. Right, and I want my week check reconciliation. But literally your week check reconciliation it's a summary of everybody on that particular week. So if I go to select, you'll see that everybody is actually on there. It now has their gross, net, the breakdown of their taxes and all the rest of it, what loans were actually repaid. You've got your tax total and your UIF total. This UIF total is what has come off of their payslip. So for UIF, you will need to double it because you need to actually do your portion as well. But the tax, that is exactly what you're going to be paying over to SARS. And then you have your SDL, so it tells you what your portion of this SDL is actually on the staff on this particular week as well. Right. So that is your week reconciliations. Your month reconciliation is, remember when we first went into a pay run, we had to choose a week number. So if I chose week number 8, any payslip that has week number 8 will actually be added on. So if you are duplicating your week numbers, you will suddenly see that it will come up and say to you, when you're printing it out and you suddenly have 2 Petroses coming up, it's because you have run week number 8 twice and your numbers are now incorrect for your wage runs. So that is why we say that very first screen is very important that you get that correct. And you should never ever go above 54 weeks, because then your week numbers are really out and you need to phone us and we can try and get it corrected for you. Right, so, but sometimes you have a weekly run and you have your monthly run in the same week. That is where the salary check reconciliation will come in, because that would now be you're only wanting to see your monthly pays for week number 8. So only your monthly staff will come through. But if you did your week check reconciliation for week 8, everybody will actually come through, because you would have done both monthly staff and weekly staff actually all onto the one report. Right, month reconciliation is we chose a month number. So when you do your month reconciliation, everything that says month number 2 will come up. So whatever weeks you have done as month number 2 will get all added together and print you a month reconciliation. And then of course you have your last one, which is your year. Everything that has year number 9 gets added up together, and you can now print out your year reconciliation. Your years, you can actually break it down into looking at your deductions, and you can actually have a printout of what your income actually has been, so that you can see the different incomes. That is normally required for your workman's compensation. So at the end of the year, when you're getting ready to do your end of the year figures and things, I always tell my clients to actually print out your income year to date, because workman's comp need those figures and they want them actually broken down. They want to know what your net salary actually, what your basic salaries actually were. They don't want to know about all the other bits and pieces. So that's why you need to know what your income report actually is. Right, you can also break your year down by weeks, and by months if you need to. Now, we have a lot of different reports. Your pay slips, you can reprint any pay slip that you want. If you do a pay slip reprint, it will reprint every single pay slip for that week, month that you chose. But if you do one pay slip reprint, it asks you which staff member and then which week do you want. And as I've said before, you can go back the whole 9 years and reprint any pay slip that you want. Right. These wage run checklists, I'll show you what it actually looks like, but it is literally a blank piece of paper for you to be able to write up any notes that you want for payroll. If on a certain day you happen to know, somebody comes to you and says, you know, I had a problem with the reader, it didn't actually clock me out, or whatever it actually was, you can go find their name, write their notes against them, that type of thing. So it just allows you to have their names and you're ready and waiting for, these are the problems I have to actually sort out when I come to do my wage run itself. So that's what your wage check is actually all about. All right. We can print out your rise histories. We can print out all of your leave histories, who your drivers are. your BEE listings, because remember in your personnel, it asks you what race. It automatically defaults to unknown, because we're not unusual, we're not supposed to ask, but at the same time, they want us to actually give them the information. So, yeah. We have that all there. You can print all of those out as well. And then you can have also your employer deductions. So these ones here will actually allow you to see what both the employee and the employer, you can put all your figures together for those. So that, like for UIF, you have your portion and their portion, you have to double it. For your pensions and things like that, you have their portion and our portion. So those figures will actually all come together. You also have your council reconciliation. It literally will give you a list of all of your staff members and with all of their details actually on it. And depending on what week and month you've actually chosen as to what is actually shown on that report, but it will show you here again. It will show you like your pensions and ADL, ALPs and things like that. Right. So we have our pensions, our providence, the unions, the ALPs, any training, all of those type of things. All of that is actually on that list for them to be able to see what's going on, with the industrial council numbers as well. So you've got your breakdowns of what you require. Right. And that is basically your payroll on the system. IRP5s. Running of your IRP5s is actually quite simple. Admin, payroll and salaries. Right. I have shown you, sorry, I've just going back to payroll quickly. I've only shown you weekly paid, but weekly, fortnightly, and monthly, exactly the same procedure. You just literally go in and edit the screen. Fortnightly comes up with 90 hours, a monthly will come up with that 195 because that's what you had in your default. So it doesn't really change, it's just your working hours that have actually changed, but the rest of it is exactly the same. Right, right. So we are now going to go to IRP5 run. So when do we actually want to start our IRP5 from? So we click on our OK button. Thank you. It's now need to look for what year. Now at the moment we should be finishing our IRP5s for February 2020. So that will be year 8. So I'll go to the beginning of year 8. That's when I wanted to start my IRP5 from. I say select. When does my IRP5 end? It doesn't do it automatically for you. It's because in South Africa, we have biannual IRP5s. So in August, you normally have to actually do your next set, or the end of August. So you've got to tell the computer when your last wage run actually was. Right, so our last wage run was here. So we say select. Because SARS requires personnel information, it will need to run through and get these things sorted out for us. So we click on our OK button. It's going through, it's checking. I've got 25 faults. Do you want to print out these faults? Yes, we do. Right, so what have I done wrong? Get in paper, or I printed out. So 21, it's telling us there are certain bits of information that are mandatory to SARS, and it's double checking that you have not put in that information actually on it. Right, like 951, the tax number is not 10 digits, and 951 does not actually have an ID number. Right, so let's close this down. So what do we now have to do? We go up to our, it told me that because there are faults, it can't carry on. So I've got to go into my personnel, current company personnel. I find my 21, which was actually my Petros. Right, so it's all of that. He's got, his address details, structured, yes, he's got country code, that's fine. He's got 3 lines, that's correct. Sorry,
Do you not need to just set the postal address to same as road address?
Ah, that's it. Thank you. Thank you. Right. Okay. Thank you for looking for me. His ID did not match his date of birth. Right. 103, 94,997. Right. Does not have a tax number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'm going to just copy that. Right. Normally at this point, you either go and ask Selby for his road address, or you just type in business road address. That's everything else is fine. Right. Oh, he doesn't have, they put PMB into line number 4. SARS requires it in line number 3. Right, 910509. Right, so it's 910509. So that is, I need to get my ID number to match my date of birth, but I don't know his ID number. He is actually a immigrant. He comes from Botswana or whatever. So we then just put in the number of zeros that we require afterwards. Right. And we also need 10 spaces. And we now write in our address again at the top here. Okay, so I've had to do some workarounds to actually get the IRP5s to actually work. Now, the reason for this is what generally happens with SARS is we make up, Dr. Smash will make up the CSV file. You will then import it into the SARS package. And then from the SARS, in the SARS package itself, you can then correct some of that data. Obviously, if you have the correct data, if you, Donnie has given you all of that details, you can go in and correct it now so that you never have to keep doing this. But this is the way that I would say you do workarounds, and then in the SARS program, you can correct it if you need to. Okay, so admin, payroll, we do our IRP5 runs. We need to find our week numbers again. Right, week 8. No faults found. Thank you. Right, it's now going to be making a backup and putting the information into a subfolder called IRP5 runs, and it will be on this computer. So it's just letting you know where to actually find your backups. Right. What are we doing? Are we doing at the end of the year, February, or are we doing our August biannual run? So we're doing an O2. Right, so it's now put it into IRP5s 2020 O2. it now writes up all of our details for us as to what our company name is and that type of thing, who we are. All of this came through from our defaults. Right, so everything is actually being filled in. Line 4 is optional, so it can be empty. Our country code, diplomatic indicator is not ticked because we did not tick it actually in our defaults. It is for a full year, and we are finishing our year in 2020. So our start date and our end date are actually now correct. Now, do we want to print out our IRP5s? So we say yes, and we can, okay, save the changes. And literally, Dr. Smash is now going through the whole scenario. It is bringing through clock card number 1, Banfield, and it is now bringing through all of their details. We say yes. Are we happy with them? And now prints out the IRP5s for us. If you had your IRP5s, if you had it set as a bull zip or as a PDF writer, your printer, you can actually make them into PDFs. Right. And now it literally is going to be a case of me just going through and cancelling everything that comes through. Right, sorry, this particular one did not earn tax, and the computer now wants to know why did he not earn tax, and it's normally because he is less than the tax threshold, unless you have, because it's your director or whatever it actually is, but 90% of the time it's because he is less than the tax threshold. Right, so it now puts it up. You can go to File, Save As, and you can now go and save your PDF wherever you want actually on it. Let's go to our IRP5s and you can find our 2020 and you can click in their new folder and you can do whatever you want to. We can say printouts. Whoever it is, you write in their name and we now just say save. Right, so it allows you to actually just go through and actually sort out the actual saving of the data into a PDF format if you want to. Right, and literally that is all you are doing, is you're just going through, you're confirming that your figures are correct, you're happy with them, that their start date and end dates are actually correct, and answering the questions as you go through, and that is running your IRP5s. What I have done is I haven't finished going through that long list, but you will now see that under your IRP5s, under your 2020-02, you have a file in here called IRP5 CSV. Now mine is actually only 1 KB because I'm only like a quarter of the way through the actual file itself. But that is the file that you now need to send to either your bookkeeper or on your SARS Easy file, you would actually go into that, and then there is a facility that says import the file, and this is the file that you will then import. And that will pull through all the information from the Dr. Smash and put it into the SARS Easy file for you. Right, so that would be the end of your IRP5s and how to do the IRP5s. With IRP5s, right at the end, when it has finished going through everybody, it will come up and it will ask, do you want to close the year? It depends on whether you're running your 02 or whether you're running your 08. 02 means yes, I will close my year. 08 means no, I will not be. And that's it. That is IRP5s. If you ever need to go back and reprint any of your IRP5s, there is a facility that under your default, under your wage printouts, that actually says reprint IRP5, you literally can go to a staff member and you can go to whatever year you want and be able to reprint the IRP5s. So everything is actually still on the system for you. You can reprint at any one stage, because a lot of people do tend to lose their IRP5s. We now have the facility of going back and reprinting them for you.
Thank you very much for joining us. There will be some more webinars coming up as they are processed through our graphics department. So those will go onto our website, onto our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. We hope to see you soon. Don't forget to give us a like and subscribe so you can get a notification for each one of those videos as they arrive. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Cheers.